Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, in case you guys forgot. It's been a long time since I've done a video, a much longer time than I had even anticipated, and I am so sorry. But I figured that I would kick off my videos for 2016 and celebrate the season 2 renewal of Jessica Jones by doing a review of the first season of Jessica Jones. So that is precisely what I'm going to do here. And being that I actually intended to record this review a long time ago, I have notes that I am going to be partially reading off of, so that's gonna happen. I'm gonna break eye contact with you, the viewer, in the digital world, and I apologize for that. I hope it doesn't cause you anxiety or despair. And if it bothers you, you could just listen to the video and not look at me. That's perfectly fine. I mean, this face, you don't want to deal with that. So, anyway, let's talk Jessica Jones. Is there going to be spoilers in this review? I have to look at my notes. There may be spoilers. I'm just going to say, if you haven't seen Jessica Jones, you should see it. I think the beginning of this review is not going to be that spoilery, but we might get into some territory. So without further ado, I'm going to get into this business. I want this video to be less than 15 minutes, so whooshing, we're going to do this thing. Okay, so Jessica Jones. What is Jessica Jones? How would you describe it? What I would call it is a one-of-a-kind neo-noir thriller that so capably subverts traditional tales of heroism, and it just evokes a powerful sense of feminism in its really smart and sophisticated telling of how a former vigilante and besieged abuse survivor makes sense of a world that is twisted by evils both outside and in. This is no run-of-the-mill origin story by any stretch of the imagination. Instead, we find Jessica Jones in a post-heroic state, having ditched her costume's do-gooding to work the grim streets of Hell's Kitchen as a private investigator. She's got a knack for finding the most loathsome qualities in others and drowns her sense of self-loathing in hard liquor. To me, she is perfectly, beautifully unswayed by what others think of her job, her style, her flat, and her perpetually disheveled way of life. But she is also haunted by the theft of her willpower and identity by a mind controller with one of the most laughable and yet heavy metal monikers ever to grace Marvel cinema, that being Kilgrave. Moreover, he is one of the best villains, if not the best villain, I think, ever to walk the streets of Marvel's take on New York City. I say this with all seriousness and sincerity. He's no artificially intelligent super being or alien warlord traversing the galaxies to eradicate mankind. On the contrary, he is a wolf in human clothing who sinks his fangs into the human brain and is capable of manipulating anyone's desires and forcing their hand in whatever direction he pleases. Kilgrave is terrifying on every conceivable level, not the first of which is the fact that he remains people remain conscious while he is in control. They're aware of their actions, but they're unable to prevent them, which breeds a sense of helplessness and essentially undermines your self-identity. With a single word, so much as smile, Kilgrave gets right under a person's skin and he starts digging. Unconsciousness is pretty much the only immediate escape, and even then, those who Jessica knocks out or tries to coax back into a state of self-control still experience the lingering after effects with traumatizing and even homicidal consequences. And the thing is, many of the deaths that Kilgrave causes, which of course he denies, have nothing to do with what he fundamentally wants. In this series, his foremost goal is to win Jessica's love and torture her for rejecting his. He believes that what he and Jessica had was genuinely special, that their coerced connection transcended his own oppressive abilities and Jessica's inability to retaliate or escape. She was the one who got away, and right after he orchestrated her murder of an innocent woman, no less. So, outraged after attempting to bring Jessica back into his asphyxiating and controlling embrace and getting hit by a bus for trying to prevent her jailbreak, Kilgrave decides to make a glorious comeback, luring Jessica in to his latest victim. And then a series of unfortunate events pour forth after Kilgrave uses the victim, Holly, to vicariously murder the parents who abandoned him. Once he has Jessica's full attention and proceeds to flood and sabotage both her subconscious and conscious lives, she faces a series of excruciating decisions. Does she become a hero by sacrificing herself to Kilgrave's unquenchable selfishness? Or can she find a way to save the people around her, working through her trauma, anger, and brokenness to curb a prolific horror that is Kilgrave? So he is hell-bent on forcing Jessica to choose him by stripping away everything Jessica could possibly hold dear, and then some. He sees what he wants and he pursues it at any cost. And believe me, he pays nothing out of pocket. Not this guy. In his mind, the lines between expectation and reality are irrevocably blurred, since whatever he says automatically goes. It's kind of problematic. And vexingly enough, he takes an ability that could be used to help others and instead takes advantage and dehumanizes without batting a lash. No need to be held accountable for shit when you can bend every situation in your favor. I have a tiny little piece of bang in my eye, it's bugging me. But he is an author of chaos on par with Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. And we're invited to spend 13 episodes in his paranoia-inducing company. Despising him would be a far easier task if he weren't so dang alluring. I blame that inconvenience wholly on David Tennant, who harnesses the endearing mannerisms of the 10th Doctor from Doctor Who to produce a storm of cognitive dissonance in my enamored brain. Not to mention, he capably handles Kilgrave's disturbing past to cast the bastard in an unexpectedly sympathetic light when we least desire to cringe on his behalf. All in all, watching Jessica Jones stand her ground and reclaim her personhood in the midst of Kilgrave's machinations is such a grueling, emotional, and bewitching experience that has left me freaking dumbfounded. The writing and acting and setting just combined to make the most deliciously dark and thought-provoking drama that I have witnessed since Dexter's earlier seasons and Hannibal's breathtaking run as well. What's especially unique about the storytelling in Jessica Jones is that it borrows from the superhero comic canon and noir mysteries and crime thrillers to innovate this psychodrama in which Jessica must not only gather her wits and strength to take down a murderous abuser, but actually prove his existence, resolving her own deep-seated struggles and fears as a result. She brings her tormentor out into the open by pinpointing his weaknesses and differentiating her thoughts, perceptions, and experiences from those products of his deeply skewed understanding in order to ultimately reclaim her individuality and purpose. So beyond her all-consuming war against Kilgrave, Jessica shares some fascinating relationships with the people around her. You know, her ties with Trish and Luke come forth as the strongest, given that Jessica and Trish bonded in their adopted sisterhood and harrowing journeys through addiction and abuse, while Jessica and Luke bonded over their powerful mutual attraction, giftedness, and complex circumstances which nearly tore them apart, but ultimately placed them on common ground. So now that Kilgrave is out of the picture and no longer inserting himself into the romance of Jessica's choosing, I hope that we can better explore Jessica and Luke's reconciliation and pave the way to more powerhouse team-ups on the streets of Hell's Kitchen. So even though some of the minor characters' arcs began to pale in comparison to Jessica's struggle with a horrifying abuser, I still applaud the second-tier characters and the passersby who serve to strengthen the central plot and show the magnitude of Kilgrave's menace, sometimes provide comic relief, and help us discover new facets of Jessica's intricate personality. For instance, her junkie neighbor Malcolm became a hero himself after Jessica freed him from Kilgrave's clutches. After that, he ditched the drugs, goes clean, and leads a support group for Kilgrave's survivors, even though many of them came out of the experience worse for the wear. And then he gets to reach out to the off-putting and ever-belligerent Robin after she loses her brother. As a private eye, Jessica also had a semi-professional relationship with Jerry Hogarth, the cold, ambitious lawyer who found herself drawn into Kilgrave's vast network of influence while going through an ugly divorce and legally representing one of his tragic victims, Hope Schlottman. It was scary to see how Jerry entertained the idea of freeing Kilgrave from Jessica's military-grade prison. The seduction went far enough that she indirectly enabled the murder of Kilgrave's mother and found her personal life ravaged by his exploitation of her wounded ex-wife, Wendy. So going back to Trish, I'm curious as to what is going to materialize from the plot with her more or less ex-boyfriend Will Simpson, the cop who Kilgrave tapped in order to murder Trish. Although he fortunately succeeded at neither killing Trish nor himself and emerged as an ally to Jessica's cause, his overzealousness landed him in the hospital where he got hooked on military drugs and roped into some top secret organization that evidently has something to do with Jessica's own history. So admittedly, I'm not really that intrigued by that story. I'd rather deal with one cohesive, well-constructed foe than another Hydra-scale operation vying for world dominance. So Jessica Jones' first season absolutely thrived from, I think, the intimacy of Kilgrave's terrors, and I would hate to see its second season lose that dark and deeply psychological edge. So my hope is that the second season is going to be every bit as amazing as the first. It might suffer a little bit as we switch gears and recover from Kilgrave, but I believe that this is without a doubt one of the finest things that Marvel has ever produced. I loved this series. It drove me freaking insane, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I'll definitely be doing future videos on this show, another second season review when that comes about, and yeah. Thank you so much for watching this review. I'll be back with more content, and as always, well, I'm hoping I will be back before you know it.